This video is on the sort of paradoxical approach to happiness, which is happiness from giving things up. Or you can almost think of this as the paradox of renunciation. Now, renunciation means to renounce something or to give it up. And this has kind of inspired a way of thinking from my time living as a Zen monk. And I'll tell you a story about this. Of course, as a monk of any sort, there's a lot that you have to give up, and they're really big on renunciation or sort of saying no to things or letting things go. And I was at a talk, a Dharma talk by one of my favorite teachers there, Abbess Fu, brilliant woman. She's like the head monk. And she said something like this. She said, renunciation, just like giving all of this stuff up, isn't what you tend to think. It's not just like giving stuff up and sacrificing. It's really giving up the stuff that doesn't work. And so you can think of all the examples of like living a monk type lifestyle or just any lifestyle. It's like, I'm going to give up drinking a lot, or I'm going to give up eating whatever I want whenever I want it, or I'm going to give up a certain relationship with this person that's somewhat toxic. At a glance, we may think that it's a sacrifice to not drink as much as you want, or eat whatever you want, or be with this person, or whatever. But when you really start to think about it, it's like, I'm really trying to just give up the things that don't work. And so my experience, like as a kid, I did eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and I struggled with it, and it made me kind of unhealthy and not a lot of happiness there. Drinking, same thing. I've gone down that road, and it doesn't lead to happiness. And so what I started to see is, maybe there is something to this idea of giving up the things that don't work as a path to happiness. And it's important to understand, I think, that it's not actually a sacrifice. In a lot of ways, it's a much more intelligent way of living. So I'll think about it like this. I'm going to read you something. This is from a book called Happiness by Mathieu Ricard, who's a Buddhist monk, but also a kind of a scientific type thinker and philosopher. And he talks about this, that for many people, the idea of renunciation and non-attachment implies a descent into this like dark dungeon of discipline and being like this ascetic who has no pleasures at all. And this is kind of silly. In fact, he talks about how there's a Tibetan proverb that says, speaking to someone about renunciation is like hitting a pig on the nose with a stick. They don't like it at all. But what he's saying is true renunciation is more like a bird soaring into the sky once its cage is open. Because all of these endless concerns that have opposed your mind, you're letting go of them, right? We're like these weary marchers carrying heavy bags that represent all of our preferences and desires and these things that we spend our time preoccupying ourselves with. And then it's like, I'm just going to put that weight aside. So importantly, renunciation is not about depriving ourselves of what brings us joy and happiness. That would be absurd. It's really about identifying what are true sources of happiness and what are the things that are actually bringing us more distress, and giving up some of those things that aren't really nourishing us in a sustainable way when it comes to happiness. I mean, think about it like this. It's another way of saying it is, I'm going to try to get more from less. Everything when we think about happiness in our culture tends to be like more from more. I got to get more money. I got to achieve more. I got to get more good experiences, more travel, more drinking, more nicotine, whatever. But a lot of the time, you can actually get more from less. I mean, if you really think about trying to get all of these different things that we need to be happy, I mean, think about all these different preferences. It's like, oh, I need alcohol, or I need a certain food, or I need a certain lifestyle, or I need to get my goals, or I need to make this amount of money. I need all these different things in order to be happy. It's like, do you call that freedom? Or what if you were able to just say, actually, I don't need any of these things. I can just be it. So here's my challenge to you as we go through this video now, is I want you to think about what is it that doesn't work for you, and is there something you could give up? Because as I said, a lot of the time we tend to think more from more. It's like, even if it's like a healthy habit, which is great, it's like, oh, you want to be happier? Well, you need to start exercising, and then you got to eat healthier, and then you need to take a cold shower every day, and then you need to write down your goals, and then you need to read a book a month, and then it's like all of these different things, and those are all good things. But sometimes you can actually get more from less. So I want to challenge you to think like a monk for a second, and remember that renunciation is really freedom. And it's really giving up the things that don't work. Is there anything in your life that doesn't really work? Something that you think you could give up to sort of put down this unnecessary burden. Remove some of this to use that analogy of the bird flying out of its cage, this kind of cage of like preferences and expectations and things you think we need, or that maybe you're even dependent on. Are there any of those things that you could renounce? And I think that could be an interesting reflection and happiness challenge. And you may even find that, like Mathieu Ricard suggests, or like my teacher suggests, that renunciation is actually a path to happiness. It's not about like sacrifice and living like a Spartan, hyper-disciplined, like David Goggins lifestyle, although if that's what you want, that's fine. It's really more saying, yeah, there's certain things I'm probably doing that don't really work, so I'm just going to give those up. So that's kind of the paradox of renunciation, as I sometimes call it. I hope this video is helpful, and I encourage you, like I said, to pause this video, or we're getting to the end now, is to think about what is something I can give up? How can I get more from less when it comes to happiness? So if you enjoyed this, here's a video that YouTube suggests you'll like. As always on this channel, you can find videos from both the art and the science of happiness to help you be at your best in work and life. So that's all for now. I'll see you next time.